KC Joyner, ESPN.com, senior NFL insider right now on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. That was an ugly one yesterday, my friend.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you guys have covered it. Worst loss by a Super Bowl team ever, so by defending Super Bowl champion, 41 points, and hey, it could have been worse. They could have, if New Orleans had decided to, they could have put up 60.
They could have absolutely kept scoring. I think they were enjoying scoring. It was just like they kept doing it and doing it and doing it well, by the way. Let's start with the Eagle offense. 7 points in a game that, New Orleans is up handily, not even a garbage time touchdown. What is going on with this offense?
I couldn't understand how it is that the Eagles only threw 14 vertical passes this whole game. Only 14. New Orleans actually threw more vertical passes in this contest, 16 vertical passes. That's incredible. And New Orleans is having success, and New Orleans shuts things down late in the game, and they're still throwing more vertical passes. And out of 14 vertical passes, 7 of them were the Golden Tate or Jordan Matthews. No disrespect to those two. You don't want them being half of your vertical offensive targets. And you're only averaging 5.9 yards per attempt. That might be why. Try throwing other guys.
The running game. I mean, they got out, they ran the ball, and then, of course, they got away from it. Adams had a nice day. He had the big run for the touchdown. I mean, it seemed like that. And then that Peter King thing that kind of said, look, let's put the ball in Wentz's hand because we can make this team one-dimensional. Well, essentially, it seems that worked.
It seemed like I got the impression from that the Eagles, they gave up on the run too easily. And I don't mean that, of course, when you're down, you have to. You can still run draws. You can still run with some sort of plays. You can still do things to keep your running game going, even if it's just to make one drive work. And it seemed like I thought they just gave up entirely on the ground game. I guess to talk about giving up, I thought that they just said, hey, we're not even going to stop them. And I thought they gave up on the running game way too early. This is the game where I think they could have been able to lean on the run a little bit more. And again, look, if they're playing soft defense and you can go ahead and get a draw play for 10 yards, go ahead and take that because your vertical game's not working. You might as well try something else.
All sorts of problems on the Eagle offense. Protection, that's there. How about Carson Wentz? I mean, when push comes to shove, Casey, the quarterback makes the money. He gets the praise. He also gets a lot of the heat. How much heat for Carson Wentz?
Well, he got pressured on 38.9% of his dropbacks yesterday. That's the third highest total of all the Week 11 games, so up through yesterday's games. I mean, you're getting pressured a lot, and it's hard to ask a quarterback to throw a lot of vertical passes when you're getting pressured that much. Having said that, again, they kind of knew this was going to be the case, that they were going to have to get into a shootout game, and I'm not looking at this game plan. I'm not looking at Wentz as if they said, okay, let's just open up the offense and let him throw vertical. Maybe they just didn't think they had the weapons to do it, but this didn't look like the sort of game where you knew we got to get into a 31-28 game with these guys if we have a chance. It looked like the Eagles were trying to play the type of game plan that said we think we can stop a shootout game, and I think that was unrealistic.
Well, inaccurate yesterday, some bad decisions from Carson Wentz.
Yeah, definitely inaccurate, some bad decisions, and it makes me again, I don't want to get on the quit bandwagon because a team can quit in one game and not quit on their coach. So I wouldn't say they're throwing on their coach yet. But when I'm seeing him making those decisions like that, he lost his poise. That's a really concerning thing, and you'll see it happen sometimes at quarterbacks, but it sends a message to defenses that if you can lose your poise here, they can find ways to make you lose your poise in other situations. You don't want to see your quarterback lose their poise. So that was what was concerning to me, is making the bad decisions. But that's what happens when you're under pressure 40% of your passes.
A lot of times people say you can't use injuries as an excuse. Did they play bad defense, or did they have bad personnel, or a combination of everything?
Bill Walsh said that if the defense has a coverage weakness, if there's somebody in your secondary who cannot cover, you can always game plan to go attack that player. And you mentioned the players that they had going in their secondary. When you're giving, what is it?
Cre'Von LeBlanc.
You're giving Cre'Von LeBlanc, who is terrible, by the way. I've done metrics on him in the past. He's terrible. He's been terrible. You give him 4 snaps. You give him 26
Chandon Sullivan's Chandon Sullivan, Trey Sullivan, Cre'Von LeBlanc. I mean, this team won the Super Bowl last year. These are the guys they're throwing out there.
Yeah, and Al Davis used to say also that you can never have too many cornerbacks. In fact, he always said you never want to let your team run short of cornerbacks, ever. Doesn't matter, stockpile them. But the Eagles have had so many injuries that you end up playing. If you have 3 cornerbacks injured, Yeah, the other team can run out 4 receivers like New Orleans can. You're essentially playing your 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th string cornerbacks. You don't have 7 string cornerbacks. You got to get guys off the street. So that's a big problem for Philadelphia. You get 3 cornerbacks down, any team is going to have some sort of problem like that.
No question. What's going on with their pass rush?
What pass rush?
Well,
I mean,
this was something that was supposed to be a strength, and it was something that this team can obviously most weeks say that they have a good pass. I mean, most weeks they go in, they feel like they have an advantage in that spot.
And New Orleans has had fantastic pass blocking metrics of late. New Orleans allowed pass rush pressure on only 18.8% of dropbacks yesterday. That's the 3rd lowest total in Week 11. And the thing is Philadelphia blitzed on 31.3% of snaps. That's the 6th highest total. So they said, we're not getting a pass rush. Let's try and blitz. It still didn't work. I think that, though, says a lot about the Saints' pass blocking. The Saints' run blocking has been good this year, but their pass blocking has been really good of late. I mean, they're one of the top offensive lines in the league. Didn't play quite so well earlier this year, but their pass block has been holding up. And Philadelphia tried to send everything they could, and it still didn't work. Kudos to the Saints on that one.
48-7. A lot of people would look at that score and say this season is hit rock bottom, and it's only going to get worse. Do you look at a team that is snowballing out of control, or is it just, hey, it's a 1-week thing, it's a week-to-week league, let's, you can move on from this? Or do you look at some trends of this Eagles team that are pointing downward?
You look at trends pointing downward. Again, look at the division, though. Washington just lost their starting quarterback. Dallas is 5-5. They could easily have a couple losses. They could have easily lost that game yesterday. Eagles are still in contention here, but they've got so many issues. I just don't know how you fix the secondary issue when you've got that many injuries in your secondary unless you get healthy back there. I don't know how you fix it, because if you've got 3 guys out, this is just, the Saints are going to be able to do that to you, but a lot of offenses, you go out there and you face them, and you've got these kind of issues in your secondary, you're going to have some problems. I mean, I don't think the Washington, the Giants, though, the Cowboys, next 3 opponents, none of them have powerhouse passing offenses. So you look at that and say they aren't teams that can take as much advantage of that as New Orleans. So you might be okay. It might be okay if they can get their secondary healthy until they face the Rams Week 15.
KC Joyner, ESPN Senior NFL Insider here on the Sports Bash. They got the Giants coming up, followed by the Redskins, and then the Cowboys. Let's see if they can get themselves right. I'll tell you this. If we talked on Friday and I said to you, they're going to roll out Cre'Von LeBlanc, Shandon Sullivan, you would probably say the Saints are going to score 48.
I would have put Traquan Smith in my fantasy lineup instead of leaving him on the bench, thinking that it was you're going to make guys look like superstars. You're running those guys out there.
All right. By the way, I sat Breeze. I went with Mahomes. Let's see if that works out for me tonight.
It might. Big game tonight. I think you'd give it a 25.
All right, let's talk about the game tonight. Let's dive into it before we look at Week 11 in the NFL. Kansas City, L.A. This Kansas City team, very explosive. L.A. too. Let's ask this question. Who's got the better defense?
Right now, it's Kansas City. Their run defense metrics have been in the middle of the league, which doesn't sound great, but they were in the bottom of the league earlier this year. And the Rams right now, for the last 5 weeks, they're ranked 29th in my run defense metrics. So I think Kansas City is going to be able to run the ball very effectively. Still think the Rams turn it into a high-scoring game and win, but I think this is going to be a more run-heavy game than people think. That's
interesting. If you're the Rams, and I find it, Goff and that offense, who is the guy, the identity of that offense? Because they got Gurley. I think he's the guy that everybody recognizes. But when you look at the Rams offense, what's their identity?
Their identity, I'll tell you, the player that's, I don't want to say most dangerous, but the centerpiece of their offense is obviously Gurley. The centerpiece of the passing game is Robert Woods. He gets this reputation of being a dink and dunk receiver and a guy that only catches possession passes. He actually, his vertical attempts and his vertical production, his vertical yardage, the percentage of plays that he's targeting vertical passes is right up there with Cooks and what Kupp had before he got hurt. So he's a guy who makes their offense go. You have to find a way to stop him because he's a centerpiece of what they want to do in the passing game.
Who do you like tonight?
I still like the Rams, even though the loss of Kupp really hurts them. And if he would have been out there, I would have said not slam dunk, but I would have really said they win 7 out of 10 times. But I still think these two teams play 10 times. The Rams win 6, A, because they're at home, and B, because they just have a couple of more passing weapons than Kansas City does.
All right, let's break it down. Let's see what these games meant on Sunday. Dallas went to Atlanta. The Cowboys get the win. Atlanta at home, they've lost 2 straight. They had the Browns last week. They couldn't pull that one out. Atlanta looked like they were turning the corner. Dallas is the team that turned it. 2 weeks in Dallas, they were having the conversation we're having about the Eagles. Oh, they're done. They're out of it. They look terrible. And now they've won 2 in a row.
Yeah, they have. And the Falcons, I mean, they should be so much better. Calvin Ridley has collapsed of late. His fantasy predictions have been terrible. He should be their complimentary receiver. He's not. Sanu has been dropping of late. So I think that their passing game, even though Ryan's still putting up great numbers, they're kind of a one-dimensional offense at this point. They need to have more weaponry to do that. In Dallas, hey, with Cooper there and with Elliott there, I mean, they're starting to develop a more well-rounded offense. And again, I don't think they're a powerhouse team, but they're certainly a team that could easily overtake Washington's lead.
I know that Newton missed that pass, but why was that game close? Detroit beats Carolina 2019.
It shouldn't have been close. Detroit, their running game got going. They finally got their run blocking corrected, and they did a lot better than the matchup said they would have. And they were able to stop Carolina's running game too. They stepped up very well against Carolina's running game, at least better than you would have expected them to. Plus, again, if Graham Gano kicks the field goal and kicks the extra point, you're not even having to do that play. So I don't think they should have done that. Should have trusted them to kick the field goal and go win. And I think they would have won in overtime had they won the extra point.
Let's go to Indianapolis, where the Colts, Tennessee, they bomb New England one week, and then they get blitzed the next. What's going on here? Indianapolis looks like that team's a factor now in the South.
That team is a factor. I actually put them number 10 in the NFL power rankings that we do for ESPN.
How much of that is Frank Reich?
How much of that? Hey, you got it. It's the best offensive line in the NFL. The past 5 weeks, their run blocking and their pass play has been fantastic. It's 5 straight games Andrew Luck has not been sacked. If you don't get pass rush pressure on him, and he doesn't have a great receiving core, but if you don't get pass rush pressure on him, he's going to keep doing what he's doing, and they can run the ball exceptionally. By the way, they've got a Defensive Player of the Year candidate in Darius Leonard, a guy who's a fantastic linebacker. That defense is better than people think, too. I think the Colts are going to make playoffs this year.
That'd be interesting. How about what happened to Tennessee this week? I mean, last week they finally looked like they had an identity. They turned the corner. I mean, and this goes to the Eagles thing. One week you lose 48-7. The next week you win. Tennessee beats New England one week. The next week they get bombed.
I think they can't throw power. Yeah, I think the Colts could play power football and throw vertical on them. I don't think the Patriots can't throw vertical, and they're not playing power football as well as the Colts are right now. Their offensive line isn't anywhere near as good. So I think it was just a bad form to see where they can. I think the Patriots are overrated, and they're going to fall through down the stretch. And again, I think the Colts, the way they're playing right now, they can dictate to teams in the way that other teams can't. Tennessee couldn't deal with it.
New York gets another W. Tampa Bay makes another quarterback change.
Tampa Bay just they can't play a quarterback who can keep going a vertical, not make mistakes, and not throw a lot of interceptions and things. But that's the nature of playing that vertical offense. But that's who they are right now. Their secondary's in terrible shape too. They have to go vertical. They have to play that type of game. They need to work that who they are. And they need. I think it's need to be aggressive right out of the gate. Stop making changes and side on one of these guys and stick with them, because this rotating never works.
Yeah, they're going to go back to Winston. Washington, they're down. They come back. The quarterback goes out. What an eerie story there. The broken leg, 33 years to the day, on the same yard line and the same final score as Theismann. That's unbelievable. But Colt McCoy almost brings them back, but Houston holds on the road.
Houston, I got them ranked 12th in the power rankings. I just can't. It went all these games with 7 games wrong. They're that good in some ways, but their offense is not nearly as powerful as you'd think. You would think Lamar Miller, Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins. You would think this offense is powerful, but they're not. This is a defense-centric team, and they're able to keep that going against an offense. Couldn't hit it. Hit on all cylinders, but I think if Houston with the teams that can actually play offense, they're going to be exposed.
All right, a couple more here. KC Joyner. Pittsburgh comes back. Jacksonville is like the AFC version of the Eagles. I mean, they've just been a mess. Jacksonville
could not find a way to close that game out, and again, they were up 16 points with 17 minutes remaining, and they had a 3-0 turnover advantage till the very last play of the game, and they ran the ball 43 times, and they still lost. Doug Marrone is not punting. Doug Marrone is losing at formula football, which is a bad formula for him as a coach.
Cincinnati, Baltimore. How many times did Lamar Jackson run the ball yesterday? 30?
They ran the ball 54 times as a team, and the big part for them is that Gus Edwards took over for Alex Collins. So what about that? My ESPN Plus fantasy column today, looking at the blocking matchups and how they impact the fantasy performance. Alex Collins is the guy who's going to hit the bench probably because Edwards has outplayed him in the good blocking yards, some other metrics. So I think that their running game, it's an interesting thing. You can win running the ball that way, and I think you can't do it long term because Jackson will take some hits. But they've got a very good makings of a rushing attack, and if Jackson starts throwing the ball, it's a dangerous offense.
Let's go to what happened to the Chargers. Denver goes out there, beats the Chargers right when we want to start buying LA. They throw up that game.
They throw up that game, and they should have. If they run the ball late in the game, then the Denver doesn't have a chance to come back. It's the Chargers not realizing they have to have a certain form of playing situational football. It's been a problem for them before. They always have these little problems where their kicking game falters or this sort of thing falters. Again, they're going to be a team that makes the playoffs, but I think this is the sort of thing that we're going to look back in the future and say, what happened to this Chargers team that had a chance to be a Super Bowl contender and things like this.
400 yards for Phillip Rivers. By the way, I did play Phillip Lindsay on my fantasy team. Let's go to Chicago. The Monsters of the Midway are back. That team's pretty good, and it looks like they have the makings of a playoff team.
They have definitely the makings of a playoff team. They're a very dominant defense in a lot of ways. Now they've got the pass rush back with Mack back. And it's going to be interesting to see how some of these offenses aren't used to seeing defenses. I think the Saints is crushing there against the Bears. I wonder if the Bears might be able to slow the Rams down. I think they're going to be able to make the playoffs and pull up enough things continue as they are because that defense is that good.
That's a look at Week 11 in the NFL. Tonight, of course, we have the game for you, 8 o'clock right here on 97.3 ESPN. KC Joyner will break down all the matchups. We'll have to do something on Wednesday's show, pal. All right? We do Wednesday?
Sounds like a plan.